no human involved. A power talk for the forgotten, the hunted, and the unapologetically alive. They call them names: whore, hooker, street trash, lot lizard, but never human. When they vanish, there are no press releases, no Amber Alerts, no midnight manhunts, just a file stamped, no human involved, and a shrug from a badge that learned to stop caring when the body wore fishnets instead of a uniform. But let me tell you something they don't want to hear. She was somebody. He was sacred. They mattered. And we remember every single one. Streetwalkers, corner queens, survivors of systems that never gave them another option, braving fists, knives, cruel jokes, and back seats just to make enough to stay alive one more night. You think it's a lifestyle? Try desperation dressed in lipstick. Try rent due and no jobs calling. Try feeding your kids with bills stained with judgment and still being told that you're worthless. They carry scars they never asked for, stories they weren't paid enough to survive, but still, they walk. Through alleys that reek of regret, past shadows that leer, towards headlights that might save them or be their last light. And the cops? Too busy profiling to protect, too eager to blame the victim instead of the system that made the corner her last chance. You say she shouldn't have been there. I say, where else was she supposed to go? This world loves to consume women but spits out sex workers. This world loves queer bodies in secret but leaves trans workers dead in public with no justice, no name, no peace. But tonight we name them all. Loud, unapologetic, rising from the pavement like ghosts with fists clenched. Because they were not nobody. They were poetry in motion. They were survival painted in red. They were sisters, brothers, siblings fighting to eat, to live, to breathe. They should be here. And they're gone. Because the world decided they were disposable. But hear me now. You do not get to erase them. You do not get to forget. You do not get to bury truth beneath shame. We will say their names. We will light candles in red light districts. We will carve justice into the bones of this system until no human is ever deemed less than again. To every streetwalker who never made it home, we carry your flame. And to the ones still out there, you are not alone. You are not filthy. You are not invisible. You are a storm dressed in skin, and we will fight until no one calls your life a footnote again. The phrase "no human involved" (NHI) was a chilling term once used by law enforcement agencies, particularly in Los Angeles, to classify cases involving sex workers, trans women, people of color, and other marginalized individuals whose disappearance or deaths were deemed unworthy of a full investigation. It was a label that erased lives before they were even counted. While many victims remain unnamed, a few have broken through the silence. Essence. A sex worker on Figueroa Street in Los Angeles was murdered in front of a fellow worker named Alex. Her story was nearly lost, just another nameless tragedy, until survivors began speaking out and a journalist started to listen. The Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls movement has uncovered countless cases where Indigenous sex workers were dismissed under NHI logic. Their names, once buried, are now spoken in rallies, vigils, and courtrooms across North America. Norma Jean Almodovar, a former LAPD officer turned sex worker right advocate, has exposed how many of her peers were ignored or dehumanized by the very system meant to protect them. Her work has helped bring names and dignity back to those once labeled non-human. These stories are just fragments of a much larger truth. They were never nobodies. They were daughters, sisters, friends, and fighters, and they deserve more than a shrug and a file number.